Book 1 of Gods and Angry Seas. I am that poet who in times past made the light melody of pastoral poetry. In my next poem, I left the woods for the adjacent farmlands, teaching them to obey even the most exacting tillers of the soil, and the farmers like my work. But now I turn to the terrible strife of Mars. This is a tale of arms and of a man, fated to be an exile. He was the first to sail from the land of Troy and reach Italy at its Lavinian shore. He met many tribulations on his way, both by land and on the ocean. High heaven willed it, for Juno was ruthless and could not forget her anger. And he had also to endure great suffering and warfare. But at last, he succeeded in founding his city and installing the gods of his race in the Latin land. And that was the origin of the Latin nation, the lords of Alba and the proud battlements of Rome. I pray for inspiration to tell how it all began, and how the Queen of Heaven sustained such outrage to her majesty that in her indignation she forced a man, famed for his true-heartedness, to tread that long path of adventure and to face so many trials. It is hard to believe gods in heaven capable of such rancor. Once there was an ancient town called Carthage, inhabited by emigrants from Tyre and confronting Italy, opposite to the mount of the Tiber, but far away. Carthage had wealth and power, and it had skill and ferocity in war. Now Juno is said to have loved Carthage best of all cities in the world, giving even Samos the second place. She kept her weapons, her chariot there. She had already set her heart on making it a capital city governing all the earth, and spared no effort fostering care, hoping that destiny might consent to her desire. She had, however, heard of another breed of men, tracing descent from the blood of Troy, who were one day to overthrow this Tyrian stronghold. For they would breed a warrior nation, haughty and sovereign over wide realms, and their onset would bring destruction to Africa. Such, she had heard, was the plan of the spinning fates, and it was this plan that Juno feared. Neither could she forget the Trojan War, when she had battled in the forefront for the Argos which she loved. She remembered the origin of that quarrel, and the fierce indignation which it had caused her. The judgment of Paris, with its unjust slight to her beauty, remained indelibly stamped on her mind. And besides, she was always jealous of the whole Trojan race, and could not forget how Ganymede had been stolen and honored. Such were the causes of Juno's fury, and so it was that the Trojan remnant, whom the Greeks, even pitiless Achilles, could not kill, were tossed in storm over all the ocean. And still she kept them far from Latium, wandering for years at the mercy of fate from sea to sea about the world. Such was the cost in heavy toil beginning the life of Rome. The Trojans had put out to sea from Sicily. They were just out of sight of land, the bronze-plated oars churning the salt water to foam. They were happily hoisting sail when Juno, perpetually nursing her heart's deep wound, spoke to herself. I, vanquished? I, to abandon the fight, lacking even the strength to keep Troy's prince from making Italy? The fates forbid me, indeed. Yet they never stopped Minerva from gutting the Argives' fleet by fire and drowning all of them, merely because one man, Ajax, son of Oileus, he alone went mad and sinned. She borrowed Jupiter's devouring fire and sped it from the clouds. She shattered the ships and tore up the surface of ocean with winds. And when Ajax, pierced through the breast by the lightning flame, was breathing his last, she caught him up in a tornado and impaled him on a pointed rock. Yet I, in my stately presidence, queen of all the divine, I, the sister and wife of Jove, have been making war for all these years on a single clan. Will anyone again pay reverence to Juno's majesty, or lay his offering on her altar in humble prayer? Debating so with herself in her fiery brain, she went straight to Aeolia, where the storm clouds have their home and mad winds are bursting to be free. In the great spaces of a cavern they wrestle, and the hurricanes roar. But Aeolus, the king who rules them, confines them in their prison, disciplined and curbed. They race from door to bolted door, and all the mountain reverberates with the noise of their resentment. But Aeolus, throned securely above them, scepter in hand, tempers their arrogance and controls their fury. Otherwise, they would sweep violently away with them every land, every sea, and the very depths of the sky, and drive them all through space. Foreseeing, therefore, the Father with whom is all power, banished the winds to that dark cavern, and piled above them a mountain mass, appointed a king over them who, under a fixed charter, would know how to hold them confined, and also, when so commanded, to give them a free rein. To this king of the winds, Juno now made her submissive appeal. To you, my lord Aeolus, who is father of all gods and king of all men, has given authority to lull the waves or to rouse them with the wind. Now a certain people whom I hate are sailing on the Etruscan sea and conveying Troy itself and the vanquished gods of Trojan homes to Italy. Smite fury into your winds, sink their ships, make the sea close over them, or drive them apart, pitch out their crews, and scatter them on the deep. I chance to have 14 sea nymphs of striking beauty, and Diopea is the loveliest of them all. I shall assign her to be yours in lawful marriage, and in return for your great goodness to me, she shall live out with you all the years to come and make you father of splendid sons. Replying, Aeolus spoke thus.
Highness, your sole task is to decide what your wish is to be, and my only duty is prompt obedience to you. I owe to you all my authority, in this little realm of mine, for it was you who won for me Jupiter's favor. I owe to you my place at the feasts of the immortals, and from you I hold my power over storm clouds and over storms.
This said, he swung his trident round where the shell of the cliff was thin, and struck home. The winds formed line, and charged through the outlet which he had made. With tornado blasts, they swept the earth. They swooped down on the sea. Winds of the east and the south, and the African wind, with squall after squall, came tearing from their depths, and set the long rollers rolling to the shores. Now men were shouting, and tackle shrieking. In a moment the clouds had rested from Trojan eyes, sky and the light of day. Blackness as of night fell on the ocean. The thunder cracked in heaven's height, and in the air above a continuous lightning flared. Wherever the Trojans looked, immediate death stared them in the eyes. Instantly, Aeneas felt his limbs give way in a chill of terror, and groaned. Stretching both hands, palm upward, to the stars, he cried aloud,
How fortunate were you, thrice fortunate and more, whose luck it was to die under the high walls of Troy before your parents' eyes. Ah, Diomede, most valiant of Greeks, why did your arm not strike me down and give my spirit freedom in death on the battlefields of Ilium, where lie the mighty Sarpedon and Hector the manslayer, pierced by Achilles' lance, and where Simois rolls down submerged beneath his stream those countless shields and helms and all those valiant dead.
Aeneas was still pouring forth his words when a howling blast from the north struck squarely his ship's sail and flung the waves sky high. Oars broke, the bow sheared away, and she took the sea full on her beam. On came, towering, a piled precipice of water. Some of the crew hung poised on wave crests. Others saw the waves sink before them to disclose, below seething water and sand, the very bottom of the sea. The south wind next caught up 3 other ships and flung them spinning onto a large spine of rocks, half submerged in mid-ocean and far out from Italy, where they are called the altars. The east wind drove 3 more away from the open sea onto quicksands in shallow water. To the dismay of their friends, the wind ran them aground and built up over them a mountain of sand. One ship carried the Lycians under their trusty chief Orontes. As Aeneas watched, a gigantic breaker came crashing from its crest onto the stern. The helmsman was whirled head foremost overboard and fell face downwards. The ship spun 3 times round where she lay. Then a whirlpool caught her and sucked her under. Some of the crew could be seen, one here, one there, swimming in the waste of water. Fragments of wreckage, personal equipment, and precious things saved from Troy floated on the waves. The storm had now prevailed against the 2 stout ships of Ilioneus, and of the valiant Achates, and 2 others also, one carrying Abas, and the other the aged Aletes. Every ship had sprung her timbers, cracks widened, and the deadly sea streamed in. But meanwhile, Neptune had been made aware by the ocean's roaring commotion